Dear students of 9A and 9B, the name of the lesson, the Industrial Revolution. What is Industrial Revolution? What is the meaning of Industrial Revolution? The meaning of Industrial Revolution is shifting of industrial pattern from small scale to large scale. It does not mean that the small scale industry will be ruined and large scale industry would be powerful. It does not mean it so. The thing is that shifting of industrial procedure from cottage or small scale industries to large scale industries which were totally dependent on machines, because earlier industry which was totally dependent on manual labor of the people, the same industry now shifted to machine made industry. That means machine started working instead of manual labor of the people. During the age of cottage industry, people, they provided manual labor and they produce a very small quantities of goods, because the process of producing goods through cottage industry or small scale industry was time consuming. But in large scale industry, instead of people, machines are working. So machines would produce bulk quantities of goods within a very less time also. It was not time consuming. So this process of shifting industrial process from handicraft to machine made is known as industrialization. Now question is, why did industrial revolution take place in England? The industrial revolution took place in England, you know my dear students. The industrial revolution took place in England. Now why? What was the reason industrial revolution took place in England? What was the reason England was a place where industrial revolution took place but not in other parts of the world? What was the reason? The first and foremost reason is favorable condition for an industrial town. The industrial revolution took place in England. Favorable geographical condition helped England to be a place for industrial revolution. That's why industrial revolution took place in England. The river route, the sea route, and other things like availability of raw materials, availability of different products, different goods, supplying of coal, supplying of other raw materials which had become helpful to England. As a result of it, industrial revolution took place in England. Industrial revolution took place in England because of the Renaissance. The Renaissance age helped England and its people to be self-sufficient. Most of the people of England, they received knowledge from the Renaissance age. They gained knowledge from the Renaissance age. The knowledge which they did not have during Renaissance age, they received this knowledge and became they all became complete men. and they utilize their potentialities, their originalities, their skills in the field of industrial growth and development. They felt that their country, England, belonged to a part where huge quantities of raw materials might be available, though it should be utilized properly. They felt that, they realized that they had huge source for the growth and development of industry because of very much availability of sea route, availability of river route, availability of geographical advantages. By taking these advantages, they might be an industrial nation. Moreover, the monarchs encouraged a number of scientists who invented many machines. The discovery of sea routes helped England to establish colonies throughout Asia, Europe and Africa. The availability of raw materials from their colonies also helped England to be self-sufficient, also paved the way for being an industrial nation in the world. It is due to that reason, my dear students, England had become a place where industrial revolution took place for the first time. And other countries of Europe, in the industrial growth and development took place, but it took time because of unavailability of raw materials, unavailability of laborers, unavailability of river routes or cheap mode of communication. But England utilized it properly, and hence industrial revolution took place first in England. So this is the reason, my dear students. And next one, England and its people. During industrial age, the people who had huge money, they invested the money for making it double. People who had huge money, they purchased lands from villages, from poor landowners. The poor landowners, they left all hopes from their lands because they were unable to compete with other people who already shifted their who already settled in towns from villages. People who shifted from villages to town, they now led a very modern lifestyle. So other villagers also followed their footsteps. So by selling their lands, they all left their villages in search of better occupation and reached towns and cities for better occupation, better jobs, better income. But on reaching towns and cities, the people who had abilities, who were skillfuls, they all were provided with proper training and as an apprentice, they join in the factories as experts and they earn money, comparatively better money than unskilled laborers, unskilled people. The people who had no education, the people who did not know how to operate machines, how to deal with others. Those who did not talk, those who could not speak properly, their knowledge was not sufficient, inadequate knowledge, they could not prosper, and as a result of it, they all, on reaching towns and cities, became factory laborers, joined as factory laborers, and then their condition became very miserable. The places where they were allowed to take shelter or live or to stay, the condition was very miserable. Neither the sun rays entered into their cottages, nor air would pass into the places they would live. Moreover, a number of diseases, communicative diseases, deteriorated their health, and there was no proper system of providing health facilities for the needy poor laborers of factories and industries. The factory owners would gain all profit without considering the terrible conditions of the poor laborers of their factories and industries. They remain busy in making money. This inhuman practice, this inhuman, practice, this inhuman business, this inhuman trade from industrial age made them millionaires, and people who decided to invest their money, they all became richer. They all became richer, and the condition of the poor people became poorer. As a result of it, many people died without being treated. Many people died. The earners of the family, they died an untimely death. Naturally, the other family members were forced to be a part of industries and factories. They would become factory laborers. Children were forced to be factory laborers. Women were forced to be factory laborers. And they were paid very, very less wages because they all were unskilled laborers. It is due to that reason the Industrial Revolution, which took place in England, made England benefited. The colonies of different countries of Asia, Europe and Africa gave England better opportunities. England availed these opportunities, and hence this country was benefited from different sides, utilized cheap laborers in their factories and industries, utilized raw materials of the colonies they had established, utilized exported their productive goods to the places where they had established their colonies, like our country, India. India was a large country for British goods, which flooded the large market of India. The British machine-made goods flooded the large market of India. The other Indian agriculturists, the other Indian industrialists could not compete with them. The industrialists who invested money, they were unable to compete with British goods. And later, in later decades, we saw active revolution movement against the British. Because of that reason, the British drained Indian wealth in the interest of themselves in order to make their country rich and prosperous. That's why the Industrial Revolution helped the British not only to be self-sufficient, not only to be rich and prosperous, but also to be oppressive. The policy of oppression throughout the colonies they established made the British a very uncultured, brute nation. And as a result of it, after a few decades later, the people on receiving knowledge, on receiving on receiving Western education, they all unitedly criticized the British policy of oppression, and they organized a number of movements, agitations against the British government. The British were unable to suppress it, but sometimes they were able to suppress, but it was done mercilessly. Later on, we shall discuss about it. Up to this, my dear students. Thank you.